Let me show you where this is headed. I found this article from March 4th today from Defector. It's titled, "I watched a Ben Shapiro movie by accident." How do you go to the Daily Wire by accident? Sure, whatever. But they write, quote, "If you're looking for something to watch, Shut-In is pretty fun, and Vincent Gallo gets his ass kicked," if you're into that sort of thing. That's a tweet I wrote a couple weeks ago, late on a Saturday night. It no longer exists. The reason it doesn't exist is because almost immediately after I posted it, I got a DM from a friend. You know that movie was produced by the ultra right-wing Daily Wire with only ultra right-wing producers, talent, and so forth for that market. What? No, delete, what? Yep, they're trying to make real movies now. Sneak that ish in under the actual cover of actual production values. Wow. For F's sake, this always happens to me. It always happens to you, huh? I will be watching an ultra-evangelical movie and not realize it's ultra-evangelical. I will be listening to Christian radio and not realize it's Christian radio. If Jesus is around, I need him to announce himself, or I'll just think he's from Brooklyn. I'm sorry, Brooklyn.
That's hilarious.
Now, here's the funny thing. How do you accidentally listen to ultra-Christian radio and be like, wait, are these biblical topics Christian? Whoa. Who is this person who's like, I actually naive. Look what they're saying. They're saying, I enjoy conservative content. Okay. I enjoy these movies. Okay. I enjoy Christian radio. Oh no, I'm not supposed to. Delete.
Wow. Yeah, that's how you know you're dealing with a cult.
Right, exactly. They like something.
Typical cult behavior.
It's a cult, man. You know, I watch Disney. I saw Ghostbusters 2016. I regretted it, but I'll go see those movies. And then I went and saw the new Ghostbusters. I liked it. I watch. I read the Daily Wire. You know, I check out the stuff they're producing or whoever, because I'm like, if someone can make something good, it's good. I'm now getting to the point where I'm like, get away from these companies that hate you and want to take your money for bad things. But maybe that's kind of the mentality they've always had. And the libertarian, civil libertarian, or conservative side is only just now realizing it. For the longest time, conservatives have been content to give their money to people who hate them. And the left has always been against giving their money to people who hate them.
I don't think conservatives realized how much these people hated them, because I don't think they realized what was brewing in the sort of academic, on the fringes of the academic left, which was this thing that I've called the progressive or bigot binary, which is that you are either necessarily progressive or a bigot. So if you are not fully progressive at every turn and you don't agree with every little tenet of our idea, or our faith, I should say, then you are a bigot. If you fall just outside of that, you're a bigot. And when you enforce that, I just don't think a lot of conservatives realized that this is what was building, that like if you disagree with them, if you disagree with them at all, it's not just that you think Clarence Thomas is innocent because it's the early 90s. Now it's, if you think Brett Kavanaugh is innocent, you are responsible for being, you're complicit in rape, and you have created violence against women.
I don't care about what these people think in terms, to a certain degree. Because of stories like this,
right?
It's just the country's bifurcated. There was a period where we had a culture war. I think the culture is just totally bifurcated,
like 1,000 times, over and over and over and over. Now there's so many pockets of weirdness.
When we started, when the culture war first began, depending on what you think was the first great moment in it, it could be Occupy Wall Street, because that's where I think the issue is most people didn't see the wokeness in the organization of Occupy.
Yes.
But Gamergate was pronounced widespread on the internet and was bubbling up and creating these personalities who were, always viewed themselves as being on the left, but now viewed themselves as being called right wing. At that time, we were still very much interested in a lot of the same things, just disagreeing on them. Now we're at a point where it's like, you guys go make your The Craft remake, which is just a woke PSA, and Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire will make regular movies that we'll watch.
Right. And that's the thing that Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire get, is that they need to make regular movies. And that has not happened before. That's the big difference between what they're doing and all of the other so-called conservative art that's come before them.
I've got a lot of friends on Facebook from the old days when I was a progressive bigot, like you were saying. I was like, they want me to, whatever. Okay. They're like, now they're talking about Servant of the People, the show with Zelensky as the lead. Right. And they're like, oh, I hear this show's okay. I can't wait to see it. And they're like, yeah, man, I loved it. I'm definitely watching this tonight. I know what I got queued up.
which Netflix just put back on in the midst of the Ukraine war. Netflix just brought Servant of the People, which is Zelensky's, it was a sitcom where he played the president of Ukraine. back in 2015. Then he ran and actually became the president of Ukraine. So Netflix US has now put this back on Netflix in English.
I feel like they're watching it because Ukraine got invaded. I mean, it's pure cult.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's just obvious. You go on Facebook, and I see all these people. Their profiles are Ukraine flags now. They're posting memes. They're saying like things about Zelensky. People are saying like Cuomo's out, Zelensky's in, or whatever. And I'm just like,
Oh, gosh.
you guys have no idea what you're talking about. You're literally in a cult. And you know why? It's this simple. You ask someone, what do you think about Ukraine? A not cult member says, I've heard about it in the news. Honestly, I'm not real, following it. I don't like the war, so Russia sucks for invading, but I wouldn't know a whole lot. What do you think about Zelensky? Who's that? He's the president of Ukraine. Oh, no idea. The cult members are like, yes, Ukraine, flag. And I'm like, why do you support Ukraine? Because big country invaded small country. Thanks,
Kamala.
And the president is a comedian. Yeah. And that's all they need.
I think there are people
And then
in
Ian's
the
like,
cult.
and I love Ian because he's like, hey, who's this guy Igor Kolomoisky who seems to be funding all of these things?
Oh yeah, so
and
Kolomoisky started a TV show,
so
Servant of
he
the
funded
People.
the TV
This is
show,
great.
funded the campaign,
Yes.
also funds the
Wow,
Azov Battalion, by the way,
interesting.
and the Adar
Sus.
Battalion. Started funding them as private security battalions for himself and his own militia. He was a governor at one point.
We've all done that.
No, we have.
Yeah.
But we're not supposed to ask questions about Kolomoisky. No. This is, a liberal democracy that we all love. But what about all those corruption reports and Hunter Biden and Burisma and all this money and the Podestas and Manafort and all of these things? Isn't this like a human trafficking area? Hasn't this been known for it? And obviously, we don't want it to be corrupt. We would like it to be, a stable country. But, what about all of this, reporting and facts?
Dude, the Kolomoisky thing. Okay, so he started Servant of the People, the TV show, or he ran or owned
He owned the network.
the network that ran this show, and then he hired Zelensky to be that role, and then he started a political party called the Servant of the People, named after the show, and then he got Zelensky to be his candidate. That's the most
Manifesto.
transparent, fascist, crazy.
His vision
Well,
board.
call it whatever you want.
I'll take a
but
breath.
This should be an example to everyone listening why it's so important to build culture, why it's so important to make TV shows, make cartoons, make jokes. Freedom Tunes has a new cartoon out today. I did the voice of Doctor. It was a lot of work. We took like half an hour to record this. But if you guys aren't familiar, we have Seamus on the show periodically. This is humor. It's making fun of Dr. Fauci. So the joke that I don't want to, you got to watch it. But the general idea is Dr. Fauci hasn't been on TV in months or a month or plus since everyone pivoted over to Ukraine from COVID. So the joke is he keeps calling like, hello, is anybody there? Like, why don't you answer your phone? We're making fun of what the establishment props up. What all the cult members, when they're all waving their flags and claiming, all these things and saying how much they love Fauci, or when Stephen Colbert had the dancing syringes or whatever
yeah,
he did,
yikes.
or who was it who did the thing where they spun up from? There's like a camera angle going up.
I think it was Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
No,
they're
it was
dancing.
Corden, James
Yeah,
Corden.
they dance.
Oh,
And it's a
America's
picture of
sweetheart.
Fauci.
They're all kind of the same.
Yeah,
I know.
they're the same
Yeah.
person.
So we make fun of that. That gives people a space. They feel like they're not alone. But also going back to what you were saying before with the Daily Wire and creating movies, it's showing all of these people who don't like what's happening in their workplace. There is another place you can work.
I'll tell you that. In addition to making art that shows how ridiculous things are, you can make art, like I can make a show where you become the president. And in the show, you're a hero and people love you and you save the world. And if that becomes a popular enough show, people will want you to be the
Well,
president.
You know why they made Men in Black, right?
No.
Yeah, you guys know the movie Men in Black, of course.
Yeah, it's a great
the
movie.
government made that, man. Listen,
It's alien propaganda?
No, because now,
gosh.
when you try and prove that the Men in Black are real, no one believes you because it's a movie, man.
Yeah.
No, that's
Conspiracy.
That makes
that's an
sense.
actual conspiracy
Well, the
theory.
X-Files, too. Yeah,
The-
it's like
the-
that.
There's actually a conspiracy theory that the government funds movies so that when you want to talk to someone about the conspiracy theory, they say, that's a movie, dude. What are you talking about?
Well, so they do fund more movies than people realize. Actually, in fact, the new Top Gun movie, where it kind of made headlines because the bomber jacket, Maverick's bomber jacket, had the Taiwanese
Right.
flag and the Japanese flag taken off. Well, it turns out actually, and if you really dig into this, the Pentagon, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, it isn't, actually provided a lot of resources to that movie, and they used training drills actually actually to be scenes in the movie. So it works out great for Hollywood and it works out great for the Pentagon because they want to have the U.S. military look good and all of that stuff. But what it means is that our government resources were complicit in removing the Taiwanese flag from the bomber jacket, and it creates this ridiculous cycle. But the Pentagon absolutely provides resources, and what you could clearly say is X amount of dollars to these movies.
When you guys were saying how we centralize stuff, 3, 5, and 8, the 3 channels, it's very new. It's very, like, we had the printing press, then all of a sudden we had TV and we had the centralized. Just TV itself and radio, it's got to be mind controlling us like crazy. It's so new in our species evolution.
Well, so what's wild is that, like, and not to delve too into Ukraine specifically, but you look at the reporting of it. How many of the stories that we see initially come out of Ukraine and then it goes 24 to 48 hours and it's completely debunked, right? And that's because we have the system that we have now. But prior to this, did we have anybody going, how could you, right? How could you go to the newspaper and understand what was going on in World War II, right? Because you weren't on the ground. We didn't have this sort of instantaneous communication system like we do now, where we can communicate with somebody in Ukraine, in Russia, in Belarus, in Poland, literally in real time to understand what's actually happening. And so we're getting these reports, and this is how people like Walter Duranty for the New York Times were able to completely cover up things like the Holodomor, like people like Edgar Snow in China were able to talk about the Chinese Cultural Revolution and the Chinese Great Famine as if, oh no, they weren't happening. It's this wonderful thing. It's Chinese communism, right? Because you didn't have somebody do that. So the question then becomes, if that's what's happening in Ukraine and we can see, right, we can see this stuff being debunked, everything almost within 24 to 48 hours, or at least the initial frame is always kind of like slightly different. Like, oh, they hit a shopping mall. Oh, wait, but there were tanks operating out of that shopping mall and missile launchers, right? So it, you have to put it in a different context. Then what does that mean for the rest of history?
His story, dude. His story. Some dude wrote it. I don't buy it.
Right.
I don't believe any of it. The Bible, it's all his story, man.
There's this.
The Bible is.
There was
his
this
story.
thing we had back in the day when I was a little kid called bathroom readers. You ever hear of them?
Oh,
They're big books
Bunch
that you
of
were supposed to
stuff in
buy, full of trivia, and you just like put in your bathroom.
Oh yeah.
I only on the bottom of every page was a factoid, and that's what I mostly enjoyed reading. But there's a story in one of them about how there's this great painting of American Revolutionary soldiers chasing off a bunch of fumbling, stumbling regulars, and they say that the original painting was fumbling, stumbling, revolutionary, Continental Army fleeing a well-regulated, British regulars. And then every time the painting got recommissioned or the story was retold, it became more and more lopsided in favor of the U.S.
That's great.
Because, people were then 5 years out from what actually happened, then 10 years out.
Right.
And so someone would tell the story of this battle and it would get embellished a little bit. And then eventually American patriotism, they're going to be like, the Americans, they fought hard and they chased away those spineless cowards. And then you get this image that's totally unrealistic.
Napoleon was great at that. He had paintings commissioned of all his officers, his top ones, and make them all look beautiful. And they're not that, they weren't, but there wasn't photography at
So
the time.
my take on this is that when you look at like Instagram culture now and filters and photoshopping and FaceApp and all of that, that's just what humans have been doing for years, but only the elites could actually afford it. So whoever was commissioning the sculpture, right, with the Emperor of Rome, well, of course they're going to say, you're going to make me look like this perfectly chiseled, features and everything, or the pharaoh or the king or whatever aristocrat it was. But then like the first English queen that we actually have photos of, I think is Queen Victoria. So look at a photo of Queen Victoria next to the painting of Queen Victoria,
Yeah, it's a
and you're
little
like,
different.
hey, wait a second.
What
going
would
on?
Donald Trump say about Queen Victoria?
Right? Oh, that's a good question.
I don't know. What's her thing?
No, if you present
Oh,
Donald
yeah.
Trump with a picture of Queen Victoria, how does he react?
No.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.